Welcome to Reframing the Pain, Season 1, Episode 5. Today we're featuring Ken Betton, a mentor for amputees both in our community and worldwide. His story has inspired many living with chronic pain. Ken is deeply committed to helping others unlock their potential, as he did for himself after him and his wife were in a life-altering car accident. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Reframing the Pain. Okay, Ken, the podcast has started. Is this your first podcast interview?
With you.
Have you had other
radio? Radio, yeah.
That's cool.
But not recently, so.
So who is Ken? What's your name? Where did you grow up?
Okay, so my name is Ken Betton. And I started out my life in Calgary. I was born in Calgary.
Oh, okay.
And we lived in a little grain town called Bicycle, northeast of there. And I guess my reputation was that if I was clean, they had to find out what I'd been doing. So I was a little rug rat. And it was a kind of a town that 300 and something people. So if a little kid was out of line, somebody else took on the role of parenting. So, you're always in the safety of this little town.
So true. Yeah.
And so anyway, that served me well, because then in later years, my wife and I were heading to Cochrane to a party, and we were coming into the what's called the Olson overpass near Sparwood, and looked up, and a big transport truck was out of control coming sideways at us. So we had no escape, and my wife's all her ribs and collarbones were broken. I had 7 broken ribs and some other upper injuries, as well as it took 3 hours to get me out of the truck. My foot was stuck with where the gas pedal was. So anyway, then there was only pain related to getting me out. They kept giving me that gas to suppress the pain. I forget what they call the gas. But
the gas they
They just kept on saying, Ken, keep puffing on it, and they were pulling on me, and finally they got me out.
Because your foot was stuck.
But my ankle bone was sticking out. So by the end of that night, my wife and I were both in Calgary. They air-vaced us into Calgary. And so they put a plate and pins in my foot, but it was infected from, the dirt probably from the accident. So then there was, subsequent to that, 5 operations to save my foot. And finally a new doctor in town, said that they could amputate my foot and I'd be walking in about 3 months. Or they could do another 1.5 2 years or more operations and still lose the foot. So it was really a no choice. But, during that whole process, there was, prior to the amputation, was 14 months of 24/7 pain.
So it didn't get amputated right away?
No, I had 5 operations trying to save a foot. Yeah. So, but anyway, as I say, 24/7 pain and a lot of painkillers, antibiotics, but it just wasn't working. So, yeah.
And then your wife?
And my wife, she passed away because of that. She passed away in June 2018. So
But she just had so many complications.
She was, all her ribs, collarbones were broken.
This was a few years of both you and your wife's pain and suffering. So what was that like? What was that like, those first few days after that accident?
Well, I was, I guess, probably in so much medication that you almost don't know what's going on. And she was I was in the trauma unit. She was in the ICU in both in Foothills. So friends or family would wheel me to be able to see her. But when I would see her, she was in a coma for 12 days. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so she was in bad shape. Yeah.
Wow. So you just tried to comfort her as much as you could.
Well, she didn't even know I was there, So. But then with me, they discharged me before her, and that was my introduction to living on crutches and the pain related to it. So life changed like right there. Yeah.
Before this, you were working full time.
Yeah, I had a contracting business after I retired from Hydro. I had a contracting business, and that ended right that day. So.
Wow. So you were making money, going through life, did you buy a house at this time in your life?
I had one already. Yeah, we had one because
already.
we'd only gotten married a few years before that. So yeah.
And then it just gone.
So life changed. Yeah.
Life changed.
Yeah. But so anyway, like I say, life then on crutches, and many people telling me to stay off ladders. Well, I was used to being on ladders every day, so all of a sudden now, and right to this day now, I'm still do not go on ladders.
Just because you're at this point now, you're gonna reuse to your body. Like now, you can't put any weight on that foot, and your balance.
Well, no, I put full weight. Like you saw me walking before the surfaces changed. So you have to be careful. It's balance is the whole issue now. I think my idea is that I should have been killed in the accident, because if you'd seen pictures of the vehicle, it was quite horrible. And I think like we impacted right where the fuel tank was on the truck.
Oh.
So it could have been a fire, but I think my good leg had a lot of diesel fuel on it, because I have skin problems ever since on my good leg now. And the highway, I guess, was shut down for over 3 hours. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was quite bad.
And so it sounds like you were really work full time and stuff like that, and then to nothing. Was it very isolating?
It's more frustrating that you're used to doing things, and all of a sudden you're not. You're sort of not allowed.
That's so true.
Like now, if I have a light bulb in my house burnt out, my orders from my son and a few other people are, do not go on ladder. Well, you can't change a light bulb without going on a ladder. So,
this is true.
So now I have to have other people do some small tasks, but it has to. I sort of obey the rules.
Don't we all sort of obey the rules? How long has it been since the accident?
Well, it was December 2012, and then the amputation was January 2014. So there was 14 months of operations and struggling, and I almost died in the accident. And then I was supposed to go back to Calgary in latter January. Then the accident was just before Christmas, and I was supposed to go back to Calgary for a checkup with the doctor that did everything after the accident. Well, that wasn't practical to go in there, so they turned me over to a doctor, actually from Jaffrey, I think, Cheney, Dr. Cheney. Yeah. And I went to see him the one day, and he said, "Well, he says you're not going anywhere. We're putting you out right now," because I was apparently septic.
You were septic.
So I just about lost my life again that day.
Oh. And how long was this after the accident?
Well, it would have been 5-6 weeks.
5-6 weeks, and you were septic. So the leg got infected from the dirt.
My whole body
stuff
did.
Like that.
My whole body was. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! And so now your wife is still in a coma?
No, she was back in Cranbrook, but she was in a care home then.
She was in a care home?
Recovering from the accident, yeah.
I see. Okay. And so you went sepsis, so now you're back in the hospital?
Well, just for a few days there, they put me out and cleaned out the infection, changed the antibiotics, and they had me on what they call an antibiotic cocktail. And nothing was working. It just wasn't working. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. What kind of inspired you to keep going? So you're your wife is now your foot is in pain. Now you have sepsis. Was there anything kind of that just kept you moving forward?
I think just the nature of, like I said, and that's the reason I told you a little bit of where I was born at, and I was a little rugrat. Well, if I fell down, got dirty, get back up, shake yourself off, and go. And I think that served me well because there's a lot of people got problems. So you've either got to decide to get up and help yourself. But I also had a very badly injured wife that I had to do suddenly I had to do all the cooking, and I did most of it before, but now I've got to do it. She can't do anything. You don't have time to do the poor me thing, and that doesn't serve you well. So
That's so true. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to pull out. You think, okay, so you're recovering and your body's healing, but it's like, oh yeah, now you have to think of all the meals, which means you have to think of all the groceries. You know what I mean? Like all of these teeny things that completely
Well, on groceries, at the very beginning, well, during, soon after the accident, I phoned a friend because that day when we were going into Calgary, I'd actually gone and picked up a fresh turkey from Ricky's Meats.
Okay.
Had the dressing and made and everything. We were going in for this celebration in Calgary, but then we were coming back and we had friends invited for Christmas. So I had all the food in the house ready for the big Christmas banquet.
Right.
So I had to phone my friend, and him and his wife went and they salvaged everything out of the house. Wow. Put it in their deep freeze or threw it in garbage or whatever they had to do with it.
Wow.
But then when I came back, I came back to my house, but my wife went into the green home. She was in there for a few weeks till they rehabbed her enough to be able to let her go. But in the meantime, I came into a house with no food.
It's so true.
So
all these little things you don't think about.
So anyway, some friends came to the rescue, and I gave them my grocery order, and they had to go and do it.
And so you're living in Cranbrook at the time.
Yeah.
And so you had to rely on community.
On community, yeah. They were all very good, really good. But all of a sudden, my life had changed to where I couldn't do things. But I had to cook. Nobody else was around there to prepare the meals, and
Right.
and I'm on crutches, which I've never been on before, or I had a wheelchair. But you try to cook on crutches or in a wheelchair, it just is.
Painful.
Yeah. They had a trainer work with me, and we'd go to the gym, and so by the time if we had an appointment for 9 o'clock, I would go there at 8, and I'd purposely do my workout before she got there.
You are independent then. I love it.
So she'd say, well, do this. And I said, well, I've already done 50 of that. Well, when did you do that? I did it before you got here. Well, let's do another 20 of this other one. Well, I've already done that one. And I was kind of outmaneuvering her.
Wow. Which is like you were inspired to create your independence again after this. After this accident, eh?
You have this inner spirit, which I have. Maybe some people don't have it, but my inner spirit was just get up, shake yourself off, and get going if you can. Kind of been intrigued by other people. The first word, if you ask them to do something, I can't do it. Well, you can't do it because you made up your mind. You're not even going to try. And so I have the attitude of get up and try and do it.
Yeah, let's see what we're capable of here. Let's not just let our brains tell us we're incapable. You know what? I relate to what you're saying because I am very inspired by the human mind and the human spirit and the things that we can overcome. And I like to see how other people work and their challenges. And but before we get into that, so now you're in a lot of pain. And what came to the decision to amputate your leg?
Well, as I say, after 5 operations, and it's going nowhere.
Up until this point, have you? What did you consider that?
Oh, you already know. You already know. Yeah.
You already know that. So if this isn't working, pins and rods,
you've got a gut feeling on the whole thing. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's interesting. So you kind of did have a little inkling.
Yeah. So anyway, it was on a Friday, and he said, "Well, if you want, on Monday we can amputate." Oh. Wow. Yeah. As I say, I strongly respect my doctors. And I kind of feel that having an amputation maybe sounds pretty rough, but under the circumstances, it was probably the best thing.
Exactly, yeah.
And Dr. Cernik said, well, if we amputate, He says the infection's only in your leg. He says we amputate. In a matter of 3 or 4 weeks, it'll be healed, and that will be the end of the pain. And so then we start getting ready for prosthetic and that process. So now when I'm mentoring other patients, like the most recent one now is like 13 or 17 years of pain.
Wow.
And I told her, well, if you're amputated and you're healthy otherwise, within a matter of weeks, when it's healed up, that's the end of your pain. That's a big story because having pain 24/7 for, say, 13 years.
It's a long time.
And now this guy tells you that cut your foot off, and in 3-4 weeks it's going to be healed up, and you're not going to have any pain anymore. That's a huge story.
So it actually did help with your pain?
It was gone.
It was gone?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
healed it?
I went to him. I had the bottle, probably 30 OxyContin pills. I went to him. My wife was with me, and I said I wanted more pills. I had 2 left. He says, no, you're not getting any more under my watch. He says, you're not going to become a drug addict. Use extra strength Tylenol if you need. So I did that for probably a couple of weeks. And then I thought, why am I doing this? Yeah, if I quit it, I'll probably not sleep for a couple of nights until my body gets over not having the pills to put you to sleep. And so that's what I did. So I haven't taken a pill, any kind of pain pill since that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? That is a very important thing to talk about because, when we go through massive pain episodes, it is very easy to get, addicted to the drugs because it does relieve the pain. But like in your experience, a couple, you had to make a conscious decision.
Yeah, and I had to do it. There's no, because you talk to the doctor, oh, here, I can give you another prescription for 30 more of this or 20 of that, or, fortunately, I had doctors that don't practice that way.
So you had to make the conscious decision in your mind and find that strength. Yeah. Did you have to do any rehab with your prosthetic or any?
Well, yeah, you have to learn to walk all over. Like your body forgets how to walk. So I had to go training to the gym with that young lady and learn how to walk and learn how to fall and get back up again.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
hey,
because you're almost blowing your heart when you're down on the ground and you got to get back up. You got to use a lot of strength.
Yeah. Who fit you with your prosthetic? Like in
Well, there's
Cranbrook
a fellow in Cranbrook, a business there.
And did you get to kind of pick a style, or is it just?
Well, I just said no pink, because the part that goes over your leg is like a hard plastic.
Yeah, and you didn't want.
And you can have it whatever color you want, but I said no pink. So that's been
very good stipulation when you're picking out a leg.
so mine, I don't know if you saw it, but it's kind of like a dark.
No, I haven't. Do you want to show people? Oh.
Here's what it looks like. So it comes up to here. There's a vinyl over my leg.
Okay.
Right up. That's the vinyl. You can feel that there.
Yeah.
So that goes over your leg, and there's a pin comes out of it, and I push this thing in here, and it would just come right off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so where can you show me on my little helper here? So where did you get your leg amputated?
Right here.
Oh.
Just it was the infection was right in the ankle, so they have to cut it off high enough up for the metal apparatus and stuff. So if you just push that pin in, squeeze it in there.
Oh, cool!
There you got it.
Wow. Don't turn around. I'll kick you in the butt.
Yeah, so that's all there's to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've never put a leg on before. And then you just push it?
Well, I'll have to stand up to do it. I'll do it after. Yeah.
You'll do it after? Is that comfortable for you?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference.
You don't know? You can't feel it.
Sure, I can feel it.
Okay. Do you want to put it back on properly?
No, I'll wait till when we're done. I'll stand up.
Okay.
But anyway, sometimes little kids are kind of looking at mine, and I said, "You want me to take it off?" And, oh yeah. So I have the little kids squeeze the button, and it comes off for them, and they're just they want to learn.
I'm a little child like that. Was very fun. I have to admit, it's like popping your false teeth out, but. little bit different.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all there's to it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that somebody made that for you in Cranbrook, and the pain. I mean, obviously, you're going to have a little adjustment with your skin and the incision site and stuff for healing, but then it really did help take away your chronic pain.
Yeah, it's, you have different discomforts, but it's a wonderful setup, so.
Yeah. So obviously you managed and you have a very good way of dealing with pain and strife in life, right? What I love is you actually created a very good relationship with your doctors. It sounded
very,
like
very good. Yeah.
very good relationship, full of trust. And so it sounded like they were the ones who started this mentor. How did that all?
There was a team of people at UBC, and they wanted to study lower limb amputations.
Okay.
And so they used me as the model for everything they were doing. Several doctors were involved in it.
Wow.
And most of it was on Zooms. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, they would, none of them are amputated. I'm the only one that's amputated, so I'm the only one that has on the street experience, yeah.
So they kind of had ideas of what it was like or what the pain was like, and you actually were the one that has lived it every day and would help them to understand lower leg amputee.
So the paper from that, I think they call it a paper, it was accepted by the European and also by Australia of the same thing. So it's been
around the world.
Yeah. But
and it's to better help people understand lower limb amputee.
Yeah. And so because of that now, I'm kind of on a list. So if doctors anywhere have a concern, they can phone me, and we'll discuss it. So that's kind of it becomes a international. I'm kind of the international expert for it. One fellow that I mentored was amputated, and he's still on crutches, still not fitted for a prosthetic, but he still had the stitches. Mm-hmm. And so they were insistent on him going from his house to their clinic for them to check. Well, he went out of his house in January, 30 below or 20 below, whatever, fell on his driveway, and he was down on the ice for over an hour before he was discovered, needed help. And when he talked to them, they were still insistent. So he told me about it. Well, I phoned Dr. Cernick, and Dr. Cernick said that would be the last time that'll happen. So that my job then is sort of an advocate for. It's kind of an unwritten job, but anyway, I advocate if something like that is written in the international paper. Yeah,
wow. Yeah. So his example is written in that paper. So do they have to come to them now?
Mm-hmm,
because yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's not safe. It's not
people
safe,
don't realize.
yeah.
Just come up to the hospital, but you don't realize when you're.
Because as an example on crutches, before my amputation, I got up in the middle of one night, as most men do in their 40s plus, and I'm on crutches, but I put the one crutch down on one of these cute little floor mats. The floor mat slid away. I ended up down smack on the floor of tile floor. But I still had to get to where I was trying to get to. But now I'm really in problems. I'm down on the floor. So it's kind of served as a lesson. So within the next day, my wife and I, we got rid of all these cute little floor mats all over the whole house.
No more cute floor mats.
Well, there's a danger.
But but these are the things that when you have, like, when you're mentoring someone, mention these little things people don't think of.
That's what I do, yeah.
How did you feel when you were asked to be a mentor?
I didn't have time. Doctor, I was at the hospital near the coffee shop. Dr. Cernick came and we shared a coffee because we've become friends. And he asked me if I'd mind talking to a patient.
Right there? Right then?
Yeah, and I sure. He said, well, come with me right now. And that was...
What?
That was my...
Your introduction. You had a job and you didn't even know it.
So anyway, that lady was in her early 90s, and gangrene had set in. She was diabetic, and gangrene, so the foot was black already. And so I when I talked to her, I said, well, if you want, tomorrow I'll wear my summer shorts, come and I'll take everything off and show you how it works. her daughter and son-in-law were going to be there from Bragg Creek. So that's how I did, and I took it all off. Explained to her about the exercises you have to do when you're amputated. You have to do some exercises to build your body up. So when you get to the prosthetic, you've allowed one half of your body to become lazy.
So true. Yeah.
So now you have to get it ready for the prosthetic, to get it ready to start doing its work, you know. So I would explain to her the exercises to do. She could lay on the bed and do them, and she was so faithful at it. And I'd come there and she'd smile. I was her best friend now. And so then anyway, I met with her I went every second day to see her. And I saw her probably on the Friday, and she died on the Saturday.
Wow.
But she died happy, you know.
Totally. And that's what I was thinking, you know, when you first think of like these things that you have to go through, whether it's an amputee or, you know, like some people, their shoulders are from accidents, or, you know, really you don't know but it just creates a lot of fear. And when you meet somebody who's happy and positive and understands the other side, it brings you joy, because if one person does it, another can, right? And that's what you bring to people, hey? How many people do you think you've mentored?
Over 50.
Wow.
Yeah. And one's I'm working on right now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must bring you...
Well, you get the feeling if you start hearing the story that now they're out, they're going to Mexico for a holiday, or they're living life again.
Wow.
And prior to the amputation, on crutches, no life. You know.
No life. Yeah, that's so true.
So it's.
So this is what my podcast was about: reframing pain. Like when you're in the woes of accidents and you know what I mean, pain and chronic pain, but it's amazing how strong the human spirit is. Like you talked about your strong spirit, and how you actually have brought that full circle. And now you're helping people, you know, and bringing them joy. In those moments in that hospital, you could never know.
No, that's right. Well, it was kind of funny in the hospital, though, because, you know, I know half of the people in Cranbrook, and my one other friend who was in the same hospital room, he knew the other half. So but it was four patients in the room, and people would come to visit me, and they'd see him there. They knew him, and frequently the nurses would come and ask if they could quieten it down in there.
You guys are all chatting like it's the Lions Club or something down there.
So here I am, a brand new amputee, and this guy's fighting for his life, and
you're still finding joy and friendship, no matter what situation you're. Ooh, that's so good, hey?
Well, you know, if you have a problem, you may not be able to get rid of the problem, but you can make things a lot worse by being the poor me.
But you know, honestly, I actually think that's a very important part to bring up, because a lot of times people can be very nervous around people who are amputees or have any differences or have been through a lot, right?
But in most cases, they don't know. Like, the doctor will ask if I can meet Joe in room 213.
Yeah.
So I go there and I say, "Hi, my name is Ken." And the patient will say, "Well, I thought this Ken guy was an amputee." But, you know, I come in just like I came in here. I'm wearing clothes, and you can't see. So you really...
Well, and you've got a good spirit, and you're uplifting and funny. You like to joke around, and, you know.
But the one that I kind of envy, I've mentored him. Now he's outperforming me, and I think, you know, and he's really impressive. This fellow, he was a retired school principal from Saskatchewan.
Okay.
And he was chainsawing his firewood, and a log rolled down and crushed his foot. So that same night, he's amputated. Like right now, he didn't have 14 months to think about it, you know. But he's got like 29 acres of land out near Creston, and he picks up old cars and renovates them, paints them, and he's got a couple of sheep and you know, and so he's living more life than most totally people who've got totally nothing wrong with him. Right. And he's outperforming. So yeah, he's just so impressive, you know. Yeah.
For the people out there who've never lost a limb or been through this, like, is there something that you wish people understood better about people who...
Well, if they're, you know, if they're in a state where they should be amputated, then that's my volunteer job in life now, is to convince them that
It's going to be...
get the amputation. It will be better. You're going to cut your foot off, and you're going to feel better. There's
There's just something in the brain that doesn't believe that, but it is.
But it is true. It
is
really
true.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So much life to live, and
So that's what, like, the doctor can tell you, well, we're going to amputate your foot or your hand or whatever. Well, it's nice that the doctor says that, but if somebody who's already amputated is telling you that it's going to be now, it's more believable hearing it from somebody who's walked the walk.
So
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. And that is, really something that is a very commendable of you too, because, it's not easy to spend your time, talking on Zoom, figuring out the computer, going up. Like you said, you went to the hospital every second day.
Yeah.
So, it takes a lot of your life and time too, but that really, to me, is what being a human is, being able to uplift other humans.
Well, you don't do things for what you can get back out of it.
Never, no.
But, no, and that was good for me, because I'd go there, and my God, I think she was 92. I'd go there, and she just smiled from ear to ear, just because I came in. It was almost like there was just something special there, and
That's so cool.
so then the family, when she died, the family asked me to be involved with the funeral.
Wow. Hey, that is so special. Yeah. So you've done over 50. So those ones stand. Any other ones stand out? Any other mentoring stories?
The couple I've talked to you about, then I say the one who fell down on the ice. His one daughter is on the basketball team at Mount Royal in Calgary, and he's coaching.
Wow.
He's an amputee, but he's out coaching.
He's coaching.
Yeah.
So cool.
So, once people get on with walking again, in most cases, the other people don't know they're amputated.
Wow.
You wear regular jeans or regular slacks. And
So that's the whole thing is this, you never know what's on the other side.
No,
so
you
you
don't.
got to
Yeah,
keep going, right? You got to figure it out. You've got to learn. You've got to grow and keep going, because you don't know the good things that are coming. You don't want to ever give up, because,
Well, you just figure another way of doing it. Is what it's all about.
Exactly. Life goes on. You just got to figure out another way of doing it. And so how did you deal with the phantom pain? What?
Yeah, well, it's really a wrong name for it. Without notice, I can probably feel my little toe twitching, but it's not there. And so, but the thing is, your brain never ever forgets that you had a foot there or a finger or whatever. So as an example, they sent me to Edmonton. The doctor did my surgery. He worked in Edmonton under probably the best doctor in Canada. When they were bringing the injured troops back from Afghanistan, they brought them to Edmonton, and that's where they were amputated. And
Okay.
so that's where he got his experience, but he got it with this other lady doctor. So they sent me there to test me for the bionic foot. So basically the bionic, your brain can send out a message to move your fingers.
Okay.
But they're artificial fingers, so it goes all the way through your brain and out. So I'm there wearing shorts. My wife was there watching, and this lady doctor was poking me with kind of looked like those big needles that you'd use for sewing garbage bags, maybe. It was big, and she was poking me everywhere. And behind your toes, there's kind of that pad there. And on my left foot, she poked that, and I jumped. And she knew what she was looking for. And I jumped, and she said, "What happened?" I said, "Well, you just poked my foot that's not there." She said, "Oh, it's just your brain." So, but it went all the way from there, all the way through My brain and to
And
the
to your right foot.
right foot. It's not there. There's no foot there.
Whoa. But they knew how to get your brain to think that sensation.
She knew what she was looking for. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I could fool anybody, but I not fooling her.
Not her.
So there's a process that when I'm working with the amputees, I teach them about desensitizing, and it's a process of 3 different textures of fabric. So the very finest fabric would be like a Kleenex, and then a satin cloth, and maybe the dishcloth or the cloth that you use for washing your face. So you rub over the where the incision, where the stitches were. You rub over that with the very finest fabric, and when you're doing that, you'll actually feel it on the other side of your leg. It's like a little electric. It feels like an electric twitching. So then you use the coarser and then the final of the 3. And you do that a few times a day on your hospital bed, called desensitizing. So you're training you're training the brain to know that foot's not there anymore. It's desensitizing.
Because it's got like a stop point. Like, so when you're rubbing these fabrics,
the
brain understands that the nerves end there.
Yeah. So it's very important. Wow, so that when I'm dealing with people on the phone or whatever, they've been amputated, say, okay, now this is something, and I'll talk to them about that, and and because there's nobody helps them,
Wow. And any other tricks that you kind of... So what happened? So in the beginning, before, because you teach this now, but you had to learn this. Oh, it's one of my favorite things about podcasts and reels and this whole social media thing is because regular people teaching regular people, the ones who have their feet on the ground, foot on the ground.
Yeah, they if they haven't walked the walk,
that's right.
They can mean well, but they don't know well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. But it's these little tiny things that make, like, understanding different things that you can do for yourself that make your life easier. Yeah, it's so powerful. Like, honestly, it's so neat how. Yeah, you said this earlier that it's not that being in pain or having to go through these things, your life just gets so much better, but it's just you relearn your life and new tricks, and you know what I mean, like how to stay inspired, like. And so is that what mentoring does for you? It just helps you to just keep inspired.
I think I'm kind of beyond where it helps me, but you can reflect back on your experiences. Like I say, the floor mats in a house are cute for healthy people, but they're not cute when you're on crutches.
That's so true. Yeah.
So then you if you go to a food buffet, you're on crutches. How do you carry your plate?
That's a good point.
So you have to get to where it doesn't hurt you to ask somebody to help me, and people are really good at helping if you ask them. And then when you're all done, say thank you.
That's awesome. So never be afraid to help. Hey. And also, what do you think in the community of Cranbrook? What was some of the things that helped you?
Well, as an example, my wife and I, we went to Tim Hortons one day, the one near Home Hardware, and I get out of the vehicle. She was driving, so she was going to drive and park it in a different location. I'm on crutches, so by the time I got to the door, a lady had gotten up out of her where she was sitting, came and held the door open for me.
Wow.
So people are really... They feel good. If they can help you, they feel good because they helped you. I feel good because they helped me. So it's kind of a really...
Yeah. Which, lots of people are, like, afraid to ask for help, or they don't want to inconvenience people.
Well... But
I always say, the Bible says it's better to give than to receive. And if you don't give people a chance to give, then they can't
let them give, but then be grateful. Show some gratitude.
And this maybe is all things that being an amputee has taught you, to be super grateful for the people around.
I think that's the key to the whole thing is I can help people. They say thank you to me.
It's so true.
But I also, when I need help, say thank you. I think that's the key in life is somebody holds the door open for you. You don't just go by and... But thank them some way. Say something nice to them, But
exactly.
because they didn't have to hold the door for
And
you.
I see the gratitude you have for your doctors and the respect for, you know what I mean, caring for you the whole time, and you know, and seeing the pain you were in, they just didn't ignore it. That, you know, it must have been hard for them to say, I think you need to amputate your leg. You know what I mean? But you respected that and listened to.
Well, and he was very, very honest about it. He said, you can carry on for another year and a half, 2 years, more operations. It's not going to make any difference. You're still going to, but now you've wasted. You know, with the amputation and getting back walking, all of a sudden you're back to living again.
Oh, and that's what you want to help people do, right?
Yeah.
With your mentorship.
Yeah, but you have no life when you're on, you can't put any weight on this injured foot.
You can't go out anywhere.
You can't do anything, and you're in pain. Now all of a sudden somebody amputates you and you got your life back again. That's huge.
It is definitely a gift. And I think that's why I really was so excited to interview you on this podcast, because you really do reframe pain into a positive, good thing. Like, hey, you can get your life back. You can be happy. You can, even with the people you've mentored, goes on to, live very successful lives. And
your worst enemy is yourself, because you say to yourself, well, I would like to do this. That's 10%. The 90% of your own mind tries talking you out of doing it. Nobody else involved. 10% you make a decision to do something. 90% now you're going to talk yourself out of it.
It must be like that in recovery too, That's
it's in everything.
So the idea is 10%, and then 90% of the rest of the time you have to convince yourself that you are
you
good enough,
you
strong enough.
You got to get power over this negative. It's 90-10, and it's.
Why do you think negativity is so powerful?
It's just part of our human nature. It's just you're taught if you don't do it right, you're going to go to hell. So you have this negative built right into everything that you do in life, because we all have that 90% negative. We all have it. The best thing you can do, and I did it when I was on town council up north, not realizing in the future I'm going to be amputated. So I set up a subcommittee of 7 disabled people, and we toured the town through their eyes.
Wow, that is powerful.
And like, for instance, the banks. You got out of your car, there was a 7-inch curb. You had to get up onto the sidewalk. Now you go to the banks, but thinking that you're in a wheelchair. First off, you're not going to get up that 7 inches. But if somehow you do get onto the sidewalk, all the bank doors open out toward the street. But you're in a wheelchair. You're sitting there in a wheelchair, and so we toured the whole town one evening through their eyes.
Yeah, but see, you're a business. You have to cater to all. This is very good.
Well, you just have to think, if you get out of the car and you're park your wheelchair or your walker there. A lot of them have walkers. Get a walker and try and do it yourself. Go from a vehicle with that and see. You're going to find it's a cruel world.
That's a good suggestion for community.
But it's what it really is, It's,
yeah, because this podcast is, about the community of Cranbrook, and it'd be a very helpful little piece, I think.
And like I say, I learned it from that night and there were 7 of them. They were all in wheelchairs and walkers. Have you ever been in a wheelchair?
No, I haven't actually. But visualizing yourself in someone's shoes and being in the wheelchair are two very
being in the wheelchair,
things.
But also the complacency of other people. Like, you just know that the problems with the wheelchair getting on the sidewalks, and you're not only having to deal with your issues, you're having to deal with their lack of concern.
Yeah,
and it's a serious issue. Yeah.
This is actually really good, because this is what, we have people in chronic pain and disabilities, even anxieties and fears. Like, what are we doing as communities to help these ones be able to navigate life with more ease? And how are we making other people's lives easier, especially people in pain?